Welcome to episode number 143 of the Marine Layer podcast. We welcome on Johnny Giunta, the host of the Gate 14 podcast, a Blue Jays podcast. We chat about the upcoming series. We discuss some memories from him and a couple of former Blue Jays who are now Mariners, Taylor Saucedo, and building the Gate 14 brand. We also have our two Mariners storylines discussing the current vibes of the Mariners and the M's moving Logan Evans back into the rotation in Double-A.
Here's your guys' reminder. Stay on top of all of our stuff. Make sure to download our episodes. Leave us that 5-star review. Leave a written review. All that stuff on the audio side of the platform, on the audio side of the podcast. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. That's all on the video side. And check us out on social media too. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Giunta. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording post-game on Wednesday, July 3rd. Lyle, you were at the ballpark tonight for Game 2 against the Orioles. How were the fireworks?
Oh, you think I stayed for the fireworks? No, I left. I don't hate fireworks as much as you do. TJ hates fireworks. However, I got out of there before there was real traffic, like a smart person.
Well, I know you went there to watch fireworks and not baseball, right?
Yeah, of course.
A better performance.
Of course I did.
Let me say this. The Mariners have hit rock bottom. This is rock bottom right now.
Well, when you lose 10 of 13, the entire offense can't hit. Brian Woo's hurt. Luis Castillo hasn't pitched like an ace in a long time. Yeah, this is rock bottom. Now, it feels funny to say rock bottom because they're still in first place. And I think if you ask most people on July 3rd, if the Mariners had a 2-game lead in the AL West, people would say great. But considering where it was 2 weeks ago, they had a 10-game lead, and now it sits at 2, and all these things are starting to unfold. Yeah, low point.
I'm starting to get annoyed at that argument. I mean, they would be 5.5 games back in every other division in baseball. Is that something to be excited about? If the Mariners are 5.5 games back playing like this, it would be even worse. People would still be staying rock bottom. Then everybody would be saying rock bottom. So you take the Mariners out of the American League West, where they're in first place because of nothing they control, pretty much. They've won the games they've won, but they're in first place because the rest of the teams have played absurdly bad until recently when the Astros have played well. If that wasn't the case, the Mariners would not be in first place. And then people would be a lot more pissed off because there could have been a chance, based on how the Mariners were playing before, they could be actually in first place in another division. Not now.
Yeah. Did you know the Mariners in the last week and a half ranked 29th in baseball in WRC Plus as a team?
What? No.
Yeah.
This offense?
Yeah. Well,
the one that got a standing ovation this week?
Yeah, they're 29th. 29th in WRC Plus. As a team, they're at 65. That was entering today's game when they then put up one run on a Cal Raleigh solo homer, today being Wednesday.
Wow. So you're telling me those were real boos, not fake boos at the ballpark?
Oh, people were pissed. People were pissed. People were not having it. People are not having it in this Orioles series because I'll tell you what, it wasn't just in Wednesday's game. Oh, it happened in Tuesday's game too, a lot. And Seattle fans don't boo for the most part. It's not New York. It's not Boston. It's not L.A. Seattle's pretty laid back for the most part.
What I was trying to say is we're used to it.
Yeah, but people are now booing, like, a lot. And again, I know they're in first place, but is it wrong to say when you say the Mariners have hit rock bottom, isn't everything we've just mentioned here in the first couple minutes all fair? Like, how much more can we even say about the offense? I'm sure we'll get into it more, but we all know at this point. 29th in WRC Plus as a team over the last week and a half, but everything else too. Again, the fact Brian Woo's hurt and yes, they chose to skip a start in the rotation because they had the built-in off day, but guys aren't getting as much rest as a result, and obviously not having Wu doesn't help. The fact that, like, Luis Castillo has been a fine pitcher this year. He's been perfectly fine, but he puts up a lot of 6 and 2s where he has to fight through it pretty hard. He's not really had a start this year where he has looked like the ace that he was acquired as in 2022, or even last year in 2023 when he finished top 5 in Cy Young voting, top 7 in Cy Young voting. He has had to really, really work to get through a lot of these starts. And that all paired with the fact that, again, an offense that it's hard to trust anybody in the lineup right now. You still got injuries in the bullpen. Gabe's not back yet. Santos isn't back yet. We'll get to Logan Evans here in a bit. Man, there's a lot of headaches right now.
You think this is the last time they try the sage in the clubhouse?
No, because it's only been one game and they seem to do it a lot. So no, I don't think it's the last time.
Interesting.
Do you?
Well, does it really have an impact? I know baseball is superstition, but Sage was burned today and they scored 1 run on 1 swing of the bat, and that's it. Against a very okay pitcher. And Craig Kimbrell, by the way, watching him each of the last 2 nights, and he's closed out the game well for the Orioles. Not what he used to be. Not even close. The stuff is not quite as good as it used to be. But it doesn't matter. The Sage didn't help, apparently, in that case. You know what annoys me, Lyle? Do you know what annoys me? So Mariners had a couple of weeks ago, 10-game lead in first place. And then in the 5 series since then, they've played 3 playoff teams into 1 bad team and 1 mediocre team. So it really hasn't mattered how good the team is, where they're playing, or how good the team is and where they're playing. They still managed to lose all those series. They played 3 playoff teams in that stretch. Guardians, Twins, and now the Orioles. Lost all 3 of those series. Play a terrible team in the Miami Marlins. Lost that series. Then an average team in the Tampa Bay Rays. Lost that series as well. So, it hasn't even mattered, really, in that case. I have a couple stats I want to throw at you regarding the Mariners playing good teams this year. But just kind of irks me that the 10-game lead is reached, and teams do play bad over that sense, but the location and the quality of team hasn't mattered. It's just an all-around suck.
It's not great. Now, it hasn't been everywhere. Logan Gilbert and George Kirby have continued to pitch very well outside of Logan Gilbert's start here on Wednesday, which, wasn't his best start of the year. It's hard to knock the guy when he came into that start with a 1.5 ERA for the month of June, and he's still going to be an all-star. So, Logan has pitched very well in the month of June outside of this 1 start. George Kirby's pitched very well. Munoz has an all-star case in his own right. It's not there's some positive spots, but it doesn't quite outshine everything else that has gone on, especially, again, like we can talk about some of the other pieces all we want, whether, again, it's the injuries or some of the other guys in the rotation, the home run splits. It comes down to the offense. This is a team that was built to be a very, very talented offensive group, and they're not even showing a fraction of it right now. It's really bad.
While the Mariners were on the road in Florida and playing terribly, I was clinging to when they come back home because we knew the Mariners played well at home, and they played up to or above their competition at home, seemingly no matter who they were playing. But they come back home this time, and it hasn't mattered. They've looked like the home field advantage we were trying to tab of how incredible the staff looks and how the offense manages to do just enough at home. It hasn't been. But it also kind of makes sense, Lyle, because, the Mariners' record at home looked pretty nice entering that last road trip before they came back home, and now they've lost 4 or 5 at home since returning to Seattle. But this is something we probably should have looked into more. I mean, their home record was really ballooned by some bad teams. Series wins against the Rangers, the A's, the Angels, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the White Sox. Not murderer's row. All series the Mariners won or swept. And it made the record look pretty good. But if you saw the Mariners and you saw that they were that good at home, you'd expect them to beat some playoff teams that have visited T-Mobile Park. Well, the Mariners have faced a playoff team in 10 series this season. They won 2 of them. They've beaten the Braves. It's a good series win at home. Braves are the top wild card in the National League right now. And they beat the Royals 2 of 3 at T-Mobile Park as well. The Royals, by the way, are a terrible road team. Terrible away from their home park. So it counts, technically, but them losing series on the road is not a mystery. Not a surprise, I think is the right word to use with that. So 10 series against playoff teams, they've won 2 series against that. Not exactly a intriguing and encouraging statistic.
And should we add the series win against the Braves happened to be thanks to one Mitch Garver swing in a game where they had not scored before the bottom of the 9th in that game?
Yeah, a very relevant stat in that game. So we can nitpick to almost say they have no series wins against playoff teams because the rest of them, they've looked uncompetitive in 2 series against the Orioles, uncompetitive in 2 series against the Guardians. They split with the Yankees in New York, and I think if the Yankees played the Mariners today, they beat them in a series. Uncompetitive in 2 series against the Twins, splitting the 2 series with the Royals, and losing a competitive but bad-tasting series early in the season till the Milwaukee Brewers. And they haven't faced all the playoff teams yet. They haven't played the Phillies yet, who are probably the best team in baseball right now. Haven't played the Dodgers yet. They might be the second best team in baseball right now. And a whole other score of National League playoff teams that they haven't. But the American League field has looked a lot better than the Mariners have.
Where do they go from here? Where does this team go moving forward?
We have to add. You got to, first of all, you need to make it to the trade deadline. You have to make it there because guys aren't really available. I know Aaron Savali got traded today, but that doesn't really mean the trade deadline's open for business right now. The Mariners need to make it at least 3 weeks without collapsing on themselves. Somehow make it 3 weeks without collapsing on themselves and falling out of a playoff spot and giving the front office any inclination that they won't go out and buy. Like, the worst case scenario is they suck for 3 more weeks. They fall out of first place. They fall out of a playoff spot. If they were to fall out of first place this week, most likely they would not be in a playoff spot because Kansas City now has a better record than they do. And then you sit there at the trade deadline, and you're in the same situation you were at last year. And that was the worst. You were stuck right in the middle. And you couldn't go any which way in one direction. And they didn't. They chose not to. And I will bet all my marbles that's exactly what they do again. Because the Mariners have been so risk-averse as an organization to try and be sustainable year after year that why would they go shell out for Luis Robert if they're sitting 3 games above 500 at the deadline? Why would they do that?
Especially if they want to keep all these prospects around, all these hitting prospects around, and say our best path forward is to let all these guys come up together, and that's how we build an offense and hope on and bank on that Julio eventually turns this thing around, which probably isn't going to please a lot of people hearing that idea and that statement, but it may be what they're thinking.
Because you sit there and you rationalize, like, even if we add this player, we're still not good enough. We're still not, and we hamper ourselves next year and the year after that, depth-wise, and what we need organizationally. So, I don't know, man. What a pickle. What an absolute pickle that this franchise could potentially put themselves in if they don't turn this thing around in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to have to sit here and be like, man, if we just beat the Diamondbacks 2 of 3 the day before the trade deadline, then we'll buy. Which is what the Mariners did last year. It legitimately came down to a series before the trade deadline to make a decision on what to do. That cannot happen again. We keep harping, like they're in the window right now. The window is open. So you need to you treat the window as open, and you can only keep the window open so long, even if you get to a deadline and you're trying to do that by making a neutral trade. Doesn't make the fans happy. It wouldn't make us happy. Wouldn't make the Mariners a whole lot better. Really? And like, unless they somehow believe that the only way this team is playoff worthy is if the guys on the current roster just turn it around and play better offensively. Like, if this lineup turns it around, that's the only way we make the playoffs. Not if we add somebody and the lineup doesn't turn around. Then we don't make the playoffs. Whoa, a mess, dude.
2 notes with that. Number one, when you talk about the Mariners deciding to buy or sell or stay neutral, all having it boil down to that Diamondback series last year, here's a narrative people can run with. You ever thought about how Dom Canzone actually lost the Mariners their playoff spot last year? Because Dom had that game-winning hit in Arizona for the Diamondbacks. It was a go-ahead single in the 8th inning, only for the Mariners to trade for Dom Canzone a couple days later.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you want to run with that narrative, there's a narrative to run with. Dom lost the Mariners their playoff spot last year. But, also another funny side note that I somehow just realized recently. Do you know that Dom home run last year in the Orioles series, the crazy tie, game-tying home run in the 9th where he did the bat flip and it was a towering shot? You know that was off Mike Baumann?
Yeah, I knew that.
I somehow didn't realize that was
when I
off
first pulled
Baumann.
up Mike Baumann highlights. It was that series.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the second thing I was going to say. Now getting back to the Orioles series. This series, like game-wise, final score-wise, the scores have not been blowouts. All the more reason this boils back to the offense. We're not sitting here talking about how Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman jumped all over this team and absolutely carried the Orioles to a series win. No, these have been low-scoring games, and the Mariners have not hit one bit. George Kirby kept them in it on Tuesday. Mariners didn't hit. Logan didn't have his best start on Wednesday, but the Mariners couldn't score 4 runs. Like, there has been no offense in any way, shape, or form. Not at all. It all boils down to the offense. Again, Gunnar's been held in check in this series. Adley's been held in check in this series. Most of this Orioles offense has been held in check. But outside of a Cal Raleigh home run here on Wednesday, there's been nothing to show for it for the Mariners.
And he'll have already started by the time this episode comes out, but Corbin Burns starts tomorrow. So the best card has not even been played on the Orioles side. He had kids earlier this week. He had twins.
Right.
And now he's gonna pitch against this offense.
Yeah. Oh, we should say, too, I guess we didn't say it at the start. The reason we're recording Wednesday night after the game rather than waiting till Thursday after the afternoon game, in case you haven't heard or didn't remember, TJ and I are hosting Brock and Salk on Friday, which we're extremely excited about on Seattle Sports. So normally, you'd hear us recap the entire series and post it out on Friday. But as you can imagine, we're altering our recording time a little bit here this week because we've got a pretty hectic week coming up with the show in the best of ways. So that's why you're sitting here listening to us record after a Wednesday game. But I just thought I'd mention that.
And if you happen to be listening to this between 7 and 10 a.m. on Friday, you can turn on the radio and listen to us, and then you can come back to this. This doesn't go away. Listen to both of them.
There you go. Yeah, when we go to commercial on live radio, you can spend a few minutes listening to this podcast, then put it on pause, then go back to listening to us on Brock and Salk, and just a whole spinning clock.
Yeah, I'm looking again. Like I'm looking forward to it a lot. I think we're going to mix, especially a lot of what we're talking about this week on these 2 podcasts that we put out, and put it on the radio as well. Because I think it's good conversation. I know we're generally talking about the disappointing performance against the Orioles this past couple of days, but the engagement on the Julio conversation was, I was expecting some, but it exceeded my expectations on the sort of conversations we were having. And that all ties in with the sort of conversations we're going to be having about this team down the stretch run of the season, because there are a lot of people have, I feel like, stronger opinions when the team is losing. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And it's what we're going to have to deal with as we go forward. Let's pause here for a second and hear a word from Game Time. Summer is here, guys, and that means it's time to get out to T-Mobile Park and watch the M's. Want to get out to the Pen, grab a drink, and watch the game with your friends? Let Game Time help you get there. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. This weekend is one of the hottest tickets of the year, guys. The Blue Jays are in town today. You can find tickets to all 3 games for under $43 each. Don't let the Canadians take over the ballpark. Get out there and go fill the stands. Get a panoramic view of your seat and toggle the all-in pricing feature so you know how much you're paying and what the view is before you buy. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code JUSTBASEBALL, JUSTBASEBALL, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, our other storyline, as we get into storyline number 2 here. Sadly for us, our guy, Logan Evans, with the AA Arkansas Travelers, has been turned back from a reliever into a starter, which means more likely than not, we will not get to see Logan Evans in the big leagues in 2024. There's still a chance, if circumstances play out in certain ways, maybe we do, but it seems like for now he's going to go back to being a starter, go back to developing, and then at some point in 2025, he could see some time in the big leagues. But the bullpen transition wasn't perfect. Obviously, he had to do it pretty quickly. He hadn't really pitched out of the bullpen much. He is a starter. And after the experiment, they ultimately decided that it was best for him to go back to being a starter. And there's a couple different reasons for that. I'll tee you up.
The couple of reasons. So he moved to the bullpen, and the Mariners were expecting to see a full step up in stuff when he went into the bullpen. They didn't see that. And then on top of that, not only did the stuff not take up, but his command wasn't really there in the bullpen either. Now, I don't know if it was the perception of him trying to throw harder, or it was him needing to ramp up quicker, or him pitching on back-to-back days or something like that. But the command also wasn't there too. And when you combine all that together, in an ERA just over 6 and 10 games out of the bullpen and a whip of 1.5, which at the AA level is kind of tough and kind of harder to justify calling someone up to the big leagues. Just a note, Logan Evans, before he went to the bullpen as a starter, at a 1.23 ERA. If we hadn't harped that point enough, a 1.23 ERA in 10 starts before heading to the bullpen. So success was not a problem at AA, but success out of the bullpen, while small sample size, he pitched just like 10 innings in the bullpen. So 10 innings is a minuscule sample, but the small sample they did see was probably not enough. And there's some good things coming for the Mariners, which gave them reason to not force Logan Evans into a role they wasn't sure he's going to be productive in. Gregory Santos yesterday on Tuesday had, for his first rehab outing, looked super good down in Tacoma. Gabe Spire is supposed to be coming back right around or right after the All-Star break, I believe. We'll talk about Chris Davinsky for a second here after we're done talking about Logan, but they signed him to a major league contract this week. He's in Tacoma too. He's had an interesting career in of itself, and the Mariners could still go trade for an arm too if they're trying to look to upgrade their bullpen. So there's a couple of options out there when it comes to steadying the bullpen, and I think Jerry Dipoto, Justin Hollander didn't really think that the transition was going to benefit the Mariners as much as they thought.
Yeah, maybe they didn't think it was going to benefit Logan Evans enough. They just thought, okay, he's best suited as a starter. He's not transitioning as seamlessly as Matt Brash did when they did this with him a couple years ago. So they said, let's just move him back to what he's best at, move him back to the rotation, which, again, I think for the two of us, we're a little bummed. We would have loved to see Logan up in the big leagues this year. We would have loved to see him be a real piece of this bullpen and then just go back to being a starter in 25. But if he's going to benefit more from being a starter, then he'll be a starter. And all your points about the velo and the command. So Shannon Dreyer broke this story on Wednesday here. And this is everything that she outlined in her story, was the Mariners felt like he wasn't seeing the uptick in velocity and was also losing some command as a result. So they said, let's also, let's take all that into consideration. Let's take into consideration the fact that Santos and Spire are getting back here soon and do what's best for everybody. So he's going to go back to being a starter for now. Hopefully we see him in the big leagues in 2025 because we know he has a chance to be a really good starter and he's shown it this year. So yeah, you just hope this is the move that works out best for everybody. I will ask this one question. I think the main reason they did this is because of everything we just outlined. that he is probably just better suited as a starter, and the transition didn't go as seamlessly as they probably hoped. But is there also anything to the idea that, look, I really hope Logan Evans stays in the organization. I know we both really hope that, but I wonder if they're, from the Mariners side of things, if there's anything to the thought of starters are valued much more than relievers. We're going to transition him back to being a starter. He has a couple more good starts, and there is the possibility that he could be packaged somewhere.
I think all can be true. He has 10 times more value if he's stretched out as a starter, because some organizations could talk themselves into him being big league ready. I don't know if he's big league ready. His stats in Arkansas as a starter are very good. I don't quite know if he's at the point of big league readiness. I do think, and Shannon outlined this in her article, don't be totally surprised if he gets a start in a Mariners uniform this season. Stuff can always happen. Someone can get hurt in the rotation. Emerson Hancock could be out of turn. He could be having back issues as well, as he's had back issues this year if he's not available, or Jonathan Diaz is not available. Logan Evans making the jump from Double-A, even if he's not totally ready, wouldn't be the most unsurprising thing in the world. So if a team looks and sees that he's a near big league ready starter, his value is pretty high at that point with the combination of the stuff, the command he showed while he was a starter, the strikeout stuff, the pitch repertoire. It's hard to replicate, especially as a lower round draft pick. So that probably had a part of it. It probably would have been he probably wouldn't have been on the table, period, if he would have been relieving, because he would have been up in the big leagues already, and the Mariners would have needed him in the bullpen anyways. So you could think of it on both sides. Not available as a reliever, period. Available and more valuable as a starter. Of course, we don't want him getting traded, but trade deadline stuff does happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Listen, if Logan Evans makes a start for the Mariners this year, I will be fired up for him. We both will. If him or Reed Van Scooter make a start for the Mariners this year, I think we would both be fired up. And Logan probably has a better shot to do it this year than Reed. Reed's had a nice year in Double-A and has thrown the ball well. But when you just look at the stuff of what Logan's done and the results he's gotten, he is probably in line ahead of Van Scooter to get the start. So, yeah, if one of those guys were to get a start this year, that'd be awesome. If Logan gets up this year, we'll be fired up for him. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Hopefully him going back to being a starter, he doesn't skip beat, and he just goes back to throwing 5-6 shutout every week that he throws, and it's just smooth sailing from here.
Yeah. And a guy who's going to probably get a couple of those innings in the bullpen instead of Logan Evans. I at least want to touch on this for a second. The Mariners signed Chris Davinsky this week. He's been bad for a while as a big leaguer. I remember him on the 2016 and 2017 Astros. He was unbelievable. His changeup was supreme. But ever since that moment, he has struggled. He struggled command-wise. He walked 11.5% of the batters he faced this year in Tampa Bay before he got released. His ERA was just under 7. There's some, I guess, positive things here, Lyle. His straight stuff is not really good at all. Stuff Plus hates it. But it also likes his slider and changeup. So, the Mariners see the fact he's got like a 134 Stuff Plus slider and a 143 changeup, and notices that he's comfortable throwing his changeup about half the time. That could be a pitch you could work with. And you find a way to mix in the other pitches and feel like you're a little bit more confident as well. I don't know how much time he's going to get, but he did sign a major league deal earlier this week to be in Tacoma and now eventually at the big league level. So he will probably pitch in a Mariners uniform this year. It's just interesting what they see in him.
It's probably like you said, probably the slider and the changeup. His baseball savant page, when you just look at some of the results, are not pretty this year. I mean, if you want to dive in, not at all. It's a lot of blue on there. He's first percentile in ground ball rate. He's fourth percentile in xERA. You could go down the list. Hopefully, the Mariners see something here, because this is usually what happens with the Mariners, right? If they sign a reliever, they see something. And Davinsky, once upon a time, was unreal. In 2017, when he was an all-star, I legitimately thought he was the best reliever in baseball. I thought he was that good for that World Series Astros team, almost unhittable. But it's been a long time since 2017. He's had his bumps in the road. He's certainly had his bumps in the road in Tampa this year. What will he look like with the Mariners? Well, hopefully he throws a lot of sliders and changeups, which obviously the Mariners do a lot with these guys. They say, hey, you throw these things really well, do it a lot, do it more. And hopefully he can play some effective role in the Mariners bullpen if he is called upon from Tacoma.
My question is, for someone who throws 48% changeups, how you have a first percentile ground ball rate? How is that possible? Changeups move down.
Right. Maybe it's a lot of hanging changeups right now. I mean, right?
I guess so. I was trying to look at his spray charts. The only thing I could think of, he needs to throw his fastball somewhere else. If you look at his spray charts on Savant, his fastball is middle. And his fastball is not a good fastball. It's bad. It gets crushed. So it might be that. It might be something as simple as that, where he, again, stops throwing his straight stuff and maybe throws his junk a little bit more. I don't know if that helps his high walk rate. He's not throwing a whole lot of strikes, and it certainly doesn't help when your stuff's also not good. And when you're worth almost -1 WAR as a reliever, that's not a good sign. But Mariners see something, and Chris Davinsky will, it sounds like, occupy some sort of role for the Mariners here down the stretch, whether it be for a couple weeks, whether it be for a month, whether it be for the rest of the year. When he gets his feet back under him, when he's in Tacoma, is tweaking something before he comes back up. I don't know. It'll be interesting because we haven't talked as much about the bullpen recently. It's been up and down, and the Mariners are getting reinforcements back, but they still do need to get back into more solid footing, more like what they were last year than what they've been in the last month or so.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And hopefully Santos and Gabe Speier do that. Hopefully they provide a real boost to this pen, and they should. Don't let the fact that Santos has been hurt the entire first half let you forget. He is a dominant reliever. He really is. And that's why the Mariners traded for him. I think you're going to see that when he gets back on the field and healthy, because that's what he was brought here to do, and that's what he has done. All right, let's take a quick pause here. We're going to talk to you guys about our friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85. That's over in Kirkland. Mariners playing the Blue Jays this weekend. It's going to be a great series. If you're not going to the games and you want somewhere to just hang out and watch them, head over there. You can play pool. You can play darts, have some great food, have some great drinks. We're going to keep harping on it because it is one of the best deals you will find. Happy hours from 2 to 6, Monday through Friday. It is $3 and $4 drinks. So get there early, hang out, have some drinks, watch the game. There's 20 TVs in the place. You're going to get every angle of those Mariners games and whatever other sporting events you want. So all of that is over at Pagacci's Pub 85 in Kirkland.
I know you and I were really excited to have Johnny Giunta on. We've watched him from afar. You always see his TikToks, always see his Twitter video. He said he's married to the Twitter game. He's always pumping out content for his podcast, the Gate 14 podcast. I need to give credit to him and his co-host Avery. That is what a fan podcast is right there. What Johnny Giunta, when he talks about the Toronto Blue Jays, that is what a fan podcast does. If you're not aware of that, A, you'll hear that in this interview. B, if you want to pause for a second, pull up the Gate 14 TikTok, pull up Johnny's Twitter page, and just go watch some of his videos and watch him talk. This dude is an ultimate entertainer. He knows Blues Jays baseball, but he's also, he does not hold back. He is 100% authentic. It's really funny. I would be lying if we say we didn't draw a little bit of inspiration from Johnny Giunta. He was awesome. Glad that he took some time to join us.
He is the voice of the Blue Jays fan base. He is. He is the most popular guy on Blue Jays Twitter. People flock to him. Gate 14 is wildly popular. That's the go-to Blue Jays fan podcast. And they're that popular for a reason. They're really fun. They're outgoing. They're not afraid to speak their minds. A lot of players like them for that reason. So that's why we wanted to have them on. We're big fans of his because we watch his stuff from afar all the time, and we're hyped to get him on. And we do want to preface something here. We spend the first 5 minutes or so of this interview talking about Jon Morosi. The reason for that, if you happen to recall, Blue Jays fans went through the ringer this offseason. They thought Shohei Ohtani was locked in to be a Blue Jay. Jon Morosi reported that he was going to be a Blue Jay. Shohei was on the flight to Toronto. He was going to sign his contract. Everything seemed like he was going to Toronto until it wasn't. So Jon Morosi got the report wrong. There was a couple other people that got the report wrong. Blue Jays fans were not happy about it. And I'll tell you what, Johnny led the charge on that. This is one of the most viral clips he's ever put out. So to preface this for people that haven't heard this or haven't seen the clip or want to know why we spend 5 minutes talking about Jon Morosi to start, here's why.
Let me say something and let me make this as abundantly fucking clear as possible. Jon Morosi should be fired from the MLB Network, sent to the most maximum security fucking prison on the planet, and should not be allowed to have a fucking cell phone for 10 to 15 motherfucking years. How do you tweet shit like that with no fucking confirmation? Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. He's fucking clickbaiting. Send Jon Morosi to the fucking sun.
And that is what you're getting into with this interview with Johnny Giunta. He is an electric factory. He really is.
That's what we call Canadian nice, Lyle.
Yes, it is. You think Blue Jays fans took that Shohei thing lightly? No, they didn't. No, they did not.
No, they did not. To hear more of that, let's get to our interview now with Johnny Giunta.
All right. We've got Johnny Giunta on with us. Gate 14 podcast. I'll say it. Face of the Blue Jays fan base. And I wanted to start with this. I thought we'd start with a fun game. And it ties back to you a little bit, Johnny. I'm going to say a word. And whatever I say, I want you to think of and tell us the first thing that pops into your head. So,
all right.
Jon Morosi.
Dead.
Dead. All right. Give us some explanation on that one.
No, listen. I at one point wanted him dead. Do I want him dead now? No, it's fine. I do not want him dead now. But when he false reported the Ohtani thing, it was one of the worst days of my life. So at one point, I might have. I didn't actually know. I said I want him in prison. So maybe the first word that comes to mind is prison. But yeah, I wanted him locked away forever.
That must have been the best day ever, though, until it was announced at the end.
It was the coolest hour of my life. It was like, holy shit. We have Shohei Ohtani on the Toronto Blue Jays, and then obviously that's just not what happened. But like I said, I wish I could go back to that hour and relive that hour when Shohei Ohtani was a Toronto Blue Jay. Unbelievable stuff.
Is it true he's actually DMing Blue Jays fans this year saying, hey, my bad, I'm trying to make up for this? I can't tell if that's real or not.
No, he actually is. He is. He hasn't DM'd me, I don't think, 'cause he knows I tweet it, but he is. He's DM'd like I've gotten a lot of DMs from Blue Jays fans being like, look at this DM Jon Morosi sending me. So he is going out of his way to specifically try to make his wrong or right. But it's just you fucked up. Just embrace it. You're done.
Has he come to Toronto this year?
I'm not sure if he's been. I think he watched the Jays play in Detroit. I don't have a tracker on him, but I do know that. People were tweeting on him, but I don't know if he has been into Toronto, because that would be. It'd be a funny video if we try to track down and find Jon Morosi. So that'd be a good idea. But I'm not sure if he has actually physically been inside the Rogers Center this season.
It's funny because go ahead, Lau.
Oh, I was just going to say, I am curious about not just you, but what Blue Jays fans went through that day. And I know you just talked about it a little bit, but for what you have a pulse on of the rest of the Blue Jays fan base, of I'm sure it was ultimately a lot of, heartbreak and anger, but going through the ringer the way you did that day with the flight, and you think he's on his way to Toronto, and you think he's going to sign the contract, and there's a thing with Yusei Kikuchi's sushi reservation. So Mariners fans went through a tiny little bit of this with Ohtani back in 2017, because Nightingale reported they were far and away the front runners, and that turned out, shocker, to be wrong. But you guys had it way worse. So I'm just curious, what you could feel from Blue Jays fans in that 24 hours, I guess.
It's just, it's some things are too good to be true. It in retrospect didn't make sense. Why would you ever leave LA to move to Toronto? Toronto's beautiful, obviously, but I just don't see a world where it makes sense to leave beautiful LA and have a chance to join a legit super team with Mookie Betts, Hall of Famer, Freddie Freeman, Hall of Famer, Clayton Kershaw, obviously, will be back soon. So it never made sense, but just in our mind, just the idea that, holy shit, it's going to be Vladdy, Bo Bichette, and Shohei Ohtani on the same baseball team was just unbelievable. And it was, obviously, as we know now, too good to be true. So it was a sad day in terms of emotions, because we had the highest of highs where MLB Transactions Daily was tweeting Ohtani signed with the Blue Jays. Dodgers Nation tweeted it. And then you have the Jon Morosi tweet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a Morosi proposal for you. Ready?
Okay.
So Mariners fans have had their own bit or beef or however you want to label it with Jon Morosi because he loves tweeting about the Mariners. He tweets about them a lot. However, for the most part, it's just a lot of words and not a whole lot of real reporting. So they label him as the Yapper. What do you think of that nickname, and do you have an alternate suggestion for the rest of us?
I do like the Yapper. That's actually a good one because he actually reported that Ohtani news with no confirmation, I believe. Like, he just tweeted it because the reps weren't answering his messages or whatever like that. So he's like, oh, they must be hiding something. The Yapper is the perfect one. I actually respect that. I do. He's Canadian, which sucks, but the Yapper's a really good one. I like that. That's a really good nickname for Jon Morosi.
That started in our little Twitter circle, in Mariners Twitter circle, because what TJ means by he was tweeting a lot of words is I think he linked the Mariners to every headline free agent this offseason. He had him linked to Yamamoto, he had him linked to Cody Bellinger, he had him linked to like a handful of guys. And he was tweeting it out like Mariners are among teams interested, and obviously none of that ever came close to coming to fruition. So that's how he earned that nickname, and it's kind of stayed true over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with going at Jon Morosi. He knows what comes with the job, and if you're going to false report, that's what's going to come with it. So, it's whatever now. I mean, I don't care. I mean, the Jays suck, so it's Ohtani would have been cool on this team, but it's a sad day when you realize you could have had Ohtani, and then now you went from having Ohtani to being last place in the AL East. So it's been a tough one. It's been a tough one for us.
So if the Blue Jays truly suck, I'll ask you this. What should Mariners fans expect from Vladdy Jr. when he's inevitably a Mariner in about a month?
Vladdy's going nowhere, I will say. Vladdy's going nowhere. That's the only guy I could see them keeping because the price for him keeps going up for you guys. Like if he has over 1,000 OPS his last 30 games. Since he cut his hair, he has like a 1,300 OPS. He had 6 home runs in his last 9 games. He's showing signs of 2021 Vladdy, and he is the only guy in this offense that I would pay money to. Like, Bo Bichette has been terrible. He'll probably figure it out sooner than later. Obviously, it's Bo Bichette. Springer's slowly starting to figure it out. Turner is too, but Vladdy is the backbone of the Toronto Blue Jays. I do not see a world where they trade him. And I just like everyone hates their superstars. You guys would hate Vladdy in like a week, just like you guys hate Julio Rodriguez, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Hate's a strong word. I think it's safe to say people aren't exactly thrilled by the way he's played this year when you're OPS in 620 at this point at time of recording. Like, yeah, people are going to have their gripes. So
yeah, Julio Rodriguez, I've always I thought he was good, but this is insane how bad he is. I can't believe it. Mariners fans hate him, legit hate him. I believe this is after he got wifed up to the Canadian soccer player, right? Jordan, I don't know how to say her name, but yeah, that's why you don't find love. It'll affect your career.
Well, it's like what you say. It's your pinned tweet. You're only Twitter's the only wife you have. You're married to the content game.
Yeah, he's not married to the baseball. He is some of his at bats, and I mean, I guess a lot of your offense kind of is like that. Same with ours, but his at bats fucking suck. He is just bad right now. He'll figure it out. He'll probably go on a little Linsanity run for a month or two, and all of his numbers will look good. But man, Julio Rodriguez that's one guy I did not expect to be really, really bad. A 620 OPS.
It's not just him though. It is people are hating everybody right now, especially after this weekend with Minnesota. Julio's the star. He gets paid the most money. He's got the longest contract. He's the most marketable. Everyone wants his autograph. But everyone sucks right now. So.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's tough.
That's
fair.
But
yeah, obviously he's going to be the poster boy for it because he's expected to drive the offense, and he's not driving the offense right now. And it's funny, speaking of being married to the game, that was his walk-up song forever, was Future. It was Married to the Game. So.
Oh, my God. That's a tough look for Julio.
What's up?
That's a tough look.
Yeah, well, he recently changed it, to be fair. Now he's using Juice WRLD, but yeah.
The tough one. Cal Raleigh is a Toronto Blue Jays killer, so every single memory I have of the Seattle Mariners is just Cal Raleigh just hitting balls into fucking orbit. And Julio Rodriguez, I don't know if there's numbers to back this up. He has been a nothing factor ever when the Jays play the Mariners. He's never really done anything. It's always Cal Raleigh or Ty France, I believe, that is just always raking off the Toronto Blue Jays. Those two guys and Carlos Santana, but he's gone now. But Cal Raleigh and Ty France are Blue Jays killers, and they will be when they play this week. It's going to be they're going to go for your offense will figure it out this weekend. I promise.
So how many homers is Cal hitting this weekend?
3. Dude, he is insane when he faces the Blue Jays. I've never seen anything like it. It's like him and Ryan Mountcastle. They're the 2 greatest hitters I've ever seen against Toronto Blue Jays. And Cal Raleigh, I mean, Mariners fans hate him too, I think. He's another guy that's just absolutely hated by. Maybe I'm just on like shit poster Twitter for Mariners fans, but they hate Cal Raleigh.
I think you're seeing the 1%ers of like Mariners Twitter. Like I think Cal Raleigh's pretty loved. I would say like he's like I think Cal Raleigh's absolutely one of the fan favorites. I think I have an idea of the people's tweets that you're saying or seeing, and while I won't name drop them, I think you're seeing the 1%ers in Mariners world.
Yeah, you will. And
that's fair.
Funny enough, so Cal has had like a tough month along with the rest of the Mariners offense. Think he's banged up and a little hurt right now. But It's funny you see all these negative tweets because, funny enough, the Mariners were ranked by Bleacher Report. Mariners Twitter was ranked as the friendliest online fan base. and Lyle and I are sitting there looking at it. No, they're not.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about
I don't know who
that's
is,
crazy.
but it's certainly not us.
Probably like A's Twitter, I guess. Maybe no one really cares for them. But you guys, I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm seeing you guys complain. Not you specifically complain, but I'm seeing these Mariners fans complain. You guys are in first place. Like the Toronto Blue Jays are in last place, third last, I believe, in the American League. Like you guys can't. I mean, obviously, bad month. You guys are still in first. Like the Astros are slowly starting to figure it out. They'll probably sweep the Jays this week, but it's just crazy seeing fan bases like Orioles fans complain, Yankees fans complain. Like you guys have it so good. You do not understand how good you guys have it because I'm telling you, the grass is not greener where we're at right now.
So what do you think happened with the Blue Jays and this whole regime? Because this rebuild of your guys was hyped up for so long with this core, with Vladdy, with Bichette, with all these guys. And there's been a few playoff appearances, but like there hasn't been any deep postseason runs. Do you have a take on where it kind of didn't all come to fruition?
I think what ruined it was the 2022 8-1 lead against the Mariners. I think the defense and the bullpen fucking that up for the Blue Jays put Ross Atkins on alert like, all right, we got to address the defense. We got to address the bullpen. Last year, they had one of the best bullpens in baseball, top 3 in ERA. They won the team gold glove. They had really good defense, but the offense, they sacrificed the offense for all that. They were more run prevention instead of run scoring, and he overcompensated with how good the defense and the bullpen was supposed to be and did not address what the offense is supposed to, how good the offense is supposed to be. And you see it, they're bottom in every single offensive category pretty much. They can hit. Going into this season, they did not have any power bats coming in. Like, obviously, there were some free agent guys like J.D. Martinez, Jorge Soler, all those guys. They didn't pick those guys up. They picked up Justin Turner, who had a really good year last year, albeit, but he's not a home run hitter. And they just kind of ran it back with the same boring-ass offense they had the year before, and this is what happens. Obviously, pitching is going to regress. You're not going to have the healthy pitching staff you had all of last year. You're not going to have the healthy bullpen you had all of last year. And this is what happens. I mean, the top 3 arms in the bullpen right last year. Tim Meza just got DFA'd. Eric Swanson, who's a good friend of ours, is in AAA with a 16 ERA. That's just what it is. And Jordan Romano is injured. Those are your top 3 arms in the bullpen, and they're not even giving you anything right now. So banking on not regressing with pitching, but you're hitting, figuring it out was very dumb in reality. And that's what the Jays did, and now it's all showing what happened here. They're really bad.
I'm guessing the Blue Jays offense is similar in a sense to where the Mariners are at offensively, where if the best player plays his best, then a lot of other problems are solved. We can't figure out Julio's issues, but have you tried to get down to why Vladdy took until now to sort of look like his 2021 self again?
Well, Vladdy is he's always gonna light up the scoreboard with eggs of velo and all that type of stuff. His launch angle is what's been the problem. He's just been a ground ball Luis Arias type hitter. He's hitting like 297 or 298 right now, so he has been good the entire season. Just the past 2 or 3 weeks, he's really, really, the power is starting to show. He's starting to launch the baseball, elevate balls. So that's the biggest thing there. But what sucks is you would think, like with Vladdy figuring it out, that this offense figured out, like you mentioned, it really just hasn't been that. Like, Vladdy is the only guy. Springer's also, I guess, been good the past week, but Vladdy's figuring it out, and he literally has no help. There's no one helping him besides IKF. And IKF has been unbelievable for this team, man. It's if I would have told you IKF and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would be carrying this offense, you would say, holy shit, this team's a wagon. Because they're just, they just have really good guys in the lineup. Those two hitters are being their best. And they're just not. They suck. The Jays suck. They can't hit. You'll see, this lineup is, bottom of the lineup's really bad, man. Kevin Kiermaier's in like 180, and he's in the 9-hole. He's really bad. It's a tough one to watch.
It's funny you mentioned the launch angles of Vladdy. That's been a big piece of Julio's issues too. It's like he'll hit the ball hard, but everything's on the ground, everything's beat into the dirt, like isn't elevating. So for Vladdy, he figured it out. I guess we'll see if Julio figures it out. I want to ask you about Blue Jays fans here specifically, and Blue Jays fans in Seattle, because I've never seen anything like this. Like, I don't see it with other fan bases around baseball, except like maybe when the Dodgers go to San Francisco or San Diego or something like that. For the most part, you don't see road fan bases just flock into a ballpark the way the Blue Jays do in Seattle. And I feel like you don't see Blue Jays fans really do that anywhere else. Like, do you know why it's Seattle of all places that they go to rather than somewhere like Detroit?
I think with how close British Columbia is to Seattle, right? Like, I mean, BC is massive, and a lot of our listeners are from there, and a lot of Jays fans obviously live there as well. So I think when they get that opportunity to not have to fly to Toronto to go watch their favorite team, they just flock. And all the players said they've never seen anything like it. They've never seen anything like it where they're in an opposing stadium, and it is just a sea of blue. I'm assuming Mariners fans hate it. Like, they just despise it.
It's the worst
right?
thing ever.
I agree. Listen, I hated it today. Like, I was at the Jays game today against the Yankees, and there was tons of Yankee fans. Like, when Judge hit the home run, there was insanely loud cheering. So I get where you guys are at. It's probably way worse than what I experienced today. But, yeah, you guys are so close to the Canadian border. That's going to happen. Like, that's just, unfortunately, that's what it's going to be probably forever. It's weird watching games and just seeing a crowd of Blue Jays uniform or jerseys everywhere and T-shirts everywhere. It's crazy.
It's not just that there's a lot of fans. I mean, it is legitimately 30 to 35,000 Canadians where they'll also jack the prices up so all the locals don't want to go, and it gets even worse.
Yeah. It's tough.
Like I was going to say, it'll be the bottom of the ninth inning. The Blue Jays will be up in a game, and you'll hear screaming and cheering like it was the Mariners that are trying to close out a game. But no, it's the Blue Jays. You've got fans standing on their feet. It's a sea of bright blue. Like, it's like the Mariners are getting rattled and having to fight against crowd noise in their own ballpark. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd be able to deal with that. Like, that is, the Yankee fans, there's probably like 10,000, 20,000 Yankee fans there today. I could not imagine just overtaking an entire stadium like that. And being a local there, and obviously the traveling, like the hotels are probably filled with Blue Jays fans. It's bananas, but the Jays it doesn't matter, though, because the Jays have never had success there, so it doesn't really, resonate or result in the Jays actually being good. So if I'm you guys, I don't care, to be honest. Like, whatever.
Is there a difference between Vancouver Blue Jays fans and Toronto Blue Jays fans?
I think they're very diehard. I think, like, to root for a team on the other side of the country that is a 3-hour time difference. So, like, the games for them start at 4 p.m. during the week. The games for them start on the weekend at, 1, and then on today, obviously, 1 o'clock game starts at 10. Like, they are diehard fans because these game times are insane. Like, they're leaving work when the Jays are playing, and they're still locked in. So I would say British Columbia and Vancouver Toronto Blue Jays fans are just insane diehard, like, love this team. So that's why, and you see it when they play the Mariners, like we're talking about. It's crazy how much they love this team.
I've got one more specific Blue Jays question for you before we transition a little bit into your guys' podcast as a whole. But if you're putting your GM hat on, if you're GM Johnny here, you talked about what you think's gone wrong with the rebuild they tried to put together. Now what do you do? Like how do they best succeed going forward?
Well, it's a tough situation. I mean, the Jays suck, and they have the 24th ranked prospect list farm system in baseball. So guys like Kevin Gossman probably will have to get traded. I mean, he's not getting younger. He's like kind of struggling here pretty bad the past couple of weeks. But Kevin Gossman probably gone. Yusei Kikuchi probably gone, who's been pretty good. Yusei Kikuchi, besides that start he had on Friday, but all the veteran guys that are on like 2-year deals, like they're gone. The only guys I'm probably 100% positive that are staying are Vladdy, David Schneider probably staying. He's tons of years left in the contract. Spencer Horwitz. The rest of it is kind of a fire sale. I don't see where it makes sense to keep running it back, and keeping this team together. You're last place in the AL East. The AL East is only getting better, and you have literally you have the worst prospect system in the American League East. So, like, where are you going to get this talent from? And the only way you could do it is by trading it. Pitching is a very hot commodity right now. Everyone needs pitchers. Kevin Gossman will get you a pretty good return. You can see the jersey behind me, Chris Bassett, one of our best friends on the podcast. I don't want them to trade him, but he has a sub-2 ERA his last 10 starts. I mean, a team is going to overpay for that, right? Especially with 2 years left in the contract. So it sucks. We're in a weird spot, man. We're pretty much the Colorado Rockies now, where teams are just trying to pick our pieces and try to take stuff from us. So with the Gate 4 team, we've never been in this position where we're rooting for a fucking team that's rebuilding, but the harsh reality of it, man, they made their bed, and that 7-game win streak did not help it 2 weeks ago.
It doesn't really make as much sense, though, to pay Vladdy if you're just going to tear it down, because he would net you the largest return. If the farm system stinks, trading him would probably jump the Blue Jays up at least 10 spots in the farm system rankings in terms of what you can get.
The Jays just spent $600 million to renovate the stadium. They got to pay that back. The only way they could pay that back is by keeping a guy like Vladdy, who the common fan, the common man, will know who that is. They will overpay for Vladdy to ensure that people still show up to the stadium. No one will show up to the stadium if they trade Vladdy and if they trade Bo. That's just what it is. It is going to be 5,000-10,000 people at these games if they do that. And Rogers knows that. And Vladdy puts acid in seats. Vladdy has made it clear he wants to stay here. You have a good young group of guys. Like Spencer Horwitz is very good. Davis Schneider, we know he's been good. Ernie Clement has also been a pretty good piece. IKF. So there is pieces around there where the offense can't get worse. That's where I'm at with this. Like you trade away these guys, it's not going to get worse. So I think Vladdy's the only guy you keep, and he's still so young where you could still build around him. And I think Bo Bichette's probably the guy that's going to be gone, and Bo Bichette gets you a pretty good return. The guy led the league in hits 3 out of his last 4 seasons. So it just sucks, but yeah, they got to figure something out sooner or later here, and they just got to start trading some guys, and it's going to suck to see like some of the fan favorites go, like Kikuchi, Gossman, Yimi Garcia. It's going to suck.
If we're going to transition a little bit into your podcast, you brought up Chris Bassett a couple minutes ago. I wanted to ask or follow up about that with you here, which was, what's your guys' story with him? Were you at his wedding? Was that the story?
No. I make the joke that he is going to be in my wedding party. Yeah, so essentially he just like followed Gate 14 randomly, like just because his dad always followed us, and so did his brother Moose. And I guess Chris Bassett, like, he has a pretty good hand, and he keeps his ear on the streets online. He knows the pulse of the fan base and all that. So he essentially was just throwing, like, I guess, saw us through Twitter. We DM'd him. He said he'll come on the pod. He came on the pod, and then in the offseason, we used to just played Fortnite with him every day. So he's just, he's one of the best. So we got close with him, and then he got us Gossman on the podcast, and we're obviously really close with like Ernie Clement and Davis Schneider. And we've been lucky to form relationships with a lot of guys on the team.
Johnny, you're so brutally honest at times, though, about all of these players. What was the balance to resonate, to build these relationships while also being your authentic self?
I think the biggest thing is they understand, like, that's why they like us, because they know we're not going to sugarcoat or do that, and then they know that we're on their side. Like, if someone comes at them, we will go, like, bring our cult-like following to attack the individual that's kind of coming at them. So they know we're the eye or the ears, and we're like the pulse of the fans, and they respect it. Like Chris Bassett would say to us, you guys are fucking idiots. If I'm pitching bad, you're not going to say anything about it. Like that's you gotta do what, like, they understand we're doing what we got to do. I think we're not as hard. Like we make jokes about being hard on players. Like we're not really hard on guys. Like I'm pretty hard probably on Kevin Kiermaier. That's about it because he's making $10.5 million. But majority of the time it's just jokes. Like the George Springer, like we were hard on George Springer, but we did like a George Springer versus Johnny Giunta, my college stats picture. Like we're not like calling for him to be like DFA'd or dead. Like we try to make light out of the situation that the Toronto Blue Jays are in, and we try to have fun with stuff, and the players respect that, and they know that we got their back. So it's hard to balance it, but we're really rarely critical about guys that have given us their time and that are really nice to us. It's hard for me to do that. I'm a little biased in terms of that.
Yeah, we're the same way. Like we defend the guys that are friends of this Todd and the guys we've had on. So like it's natural, right? Like you're gonna root for the guys that you're friendly with or friends with. It's just how it is.
Exactly. Have you guys had Trent Thornton on?
No, but he's really cool. I will say, he's like a maniac when he's on the mound, but he is super cool when he's off the mound.
Yeah, I met Trent like 3 or 4 years ago. He's a great dude. I had him on my old podcast. He's a great guy. He's very he's a gel locker room guy. Like very not a southern accent, but he kind of talks like he has a southern accent. He is he rocks, and he's a massive part of your guys' bullpen as well, right?
Yeah. Which, speaking of the bullpen, I can't even believe we got this far into it without letting me ask you this. What are your thoughts on Taylor Saucedo? Because that is the staple of this podcast. He is.
He's been unbelievable. I can't. He was so shit with the Toronto Blue Jays, like truly, utterly terrible. I mean, it's crazy. Like you guys will probably pick up Tim Meza at some point. And he'll just be good. Like I mean, it is bananas. You guys got Trent Thornton and Taylor Saucedo in the year 2024 in your bullpen as staples. It's bananas. So I got to tip my cap. I mean, that's the thing about bullpens. Like that's the thing about bullpens. It's just like, if you just have a bunch of janitors back there that no one knows who just carve, they'll do it. Like it's such a random frequency of things where you can't really forecast how good a bullpen's going to be. You have no fucking idea. There's no way of telling.
I want to put my finger on the pulse of this and see if this news made it across fan bases and, more importantly, across the border. Did you see what Taylor Saucedo was stirring up this offseason, news-wise, on our podcast?
No.
So he claimed that Babe Ruth wasn't real, and it seemed to make.
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So he jumped out into the forefront of the news, and wonder if it made it back to his old team. That's why we love
like
Sauce. He is not afraid. Guy. He is not afraid to speak his mind on subjects he thinks are important.
Yeah, that's what you need, though. He's a bullpen guy. Like bullpen guys have to be psychopaths. Like have to be. So. That is electric. It's good for you guys, too. It's good for clips. And Taylor Saucedo, man, I've never talked to him or even met him, but I just remember, like, bad memories of him on the Toronto Blue Jays. That's all I have out of Taylor Saucedo.
That's funny. So it sounds like maybe his personality never came out much there, but he's become such a fan favorite here, not just because he's been really good, but because I think he's very relatable to a lot of fans. And he basically always says, I'm just a fan that gets to put a jersey on. And he's on Twitch streams losing his mind, and he rips off all these crazy takes, and he's a huge Seattle sports fan because this is where he grew up. It's like, yeah, so it sounds like maybe his personality never got out as much in Toronto. But yeah, that's what we've seen here.
It's tough when you're a bullpen guy to really have your personality shine here in Toronto when you have like Vladdy and Bo and Springer and Gossman. All like it's tough. I mean, they're not going to really care about you if you're not the $100 million guys. So that is crazy, though. I didn't know he was that. I didn't know he was like that. That's insane.
It's crazy. So for you guys, like, how did you see your podcast start to really build over time? Like, when did you really start to see it pick up traction?
Well, so I started it because I realized there was no, like, Blue Jays fan podcast. Like, there was no, like, lunatic fan podcast of just, like, funny shit. Like, when I was trying to listen to Jay's shows, I was like, I don't want to listen to these suits. Like, I want to listen to, like, actual people. So I said, whatever. Me and Avery, let's start one together. Started out pretty slow, obviously, but, like, within a year and a bit, probably, it started getting, like, crazier where, like, people are coming up to us at games for pictures a ton now. It's truly bananas. Like, I can't really fathom it. Like every time I'll say to my buddies when we're at games, someone will come up to me for a picture. I'll be like, I can't, like, what the fuck? Like, why does someone want a picture with me? But when you're grind like this, you don't really understand the power of social media. And it started really growing when we did the Margot Robbie tweet about Mitch White. Like, we lied that Mitch White was dating Margot Robbie. Yeah. And that really blew up our socials. And then last year, at the start of the season, we went to St. Louis, slowly started to grab some traction. And then midway to 3/4 of the way last season is when it really, really blew up, where, like, we're getting a lot of downloads and, like, the players following us and knowing what we are and stuff. So it's been a crazy ride. It's been insane, like, the past year probably.
Have you seen the rest of the Blue Jays community pick it up around you in sort of a content space? We certainly weren't first in the Mariners world, but I feel like now, especially for us a year and a half plus in, we now see more people around us than when we started. Is it the same way around the Blue Jays community?
Yeah, there's other Blue Jays, like, shows that try to mimic and do the stuff that we do, and fans will be like, our listener basers, like, they're just cult, like they will die for us, like, they'll just go at anyone for us. So they'll just be like, want to be gate 14, I have to, like, just say to the guys, like, relax, like, it's fine, like, we can all create content. But yeah, you start seeing more of it. Like, people will do the post-game TikToks I do now, and they'll do the live reactions of them watching the games like we started last year. Yeah, it's crazy. And like I said, when you mimic it, it means you're doing. When people are mimicking it and copying what you're doing, it means you're doing something right. So I don't get mad about it. I don't say, like, you're copying us or any of that. Like, if they're copying our sayings, maybe I'll get a little bit mad where it's like, we started this, like you Cy Young or other nicknames we've created. But yeah, I mean, if they're doing what we're doing, it's fine. I mean, there's tons of room for it. And I mean, I don't want to have enemies that were the same fan base as us.
Did you always think you were going to do content, or, like, when did you decide this is what you wanted to do?
Like 5 years ago, I started a podcast, Fish Out Official, and, like, I had some pretty big guests. Like, I had, like, Tyler Glasnow, like, pretty big guys I got through Amir Garrett, because I'm close to Amir Garrett. And he would just help me get, like, just churn out these insane guests. Like, if you look at the guest list there, I can't even remember, like, Joe Musgrove, all these guys. So with that didn't really do as well. Like, a year, 2 years into that, didn't really do as well. So I did the Gate 14 thing, and then once Gate 14 blew up, I kind of just pushed that one to the side. But in my mind, I always wanted to do content. Like, I look at old tweets of mine. I was just tweeting into the abyss. Like, it would get, like, 1 like, no likes, and I was doing it for the love of the game. And now it's, like, it's just crazy, like, the change that has occurred. But yeah, I've always wanted to do content, man. I'm too dumb to work behind, like, a desk or work in, like, a business setting. I've always wanted to do content, and luckily we have that privilege now. So yeah, we've been extremely lucky, kind of being the first guys to get into this podcast space for, like, the fans for a Blue Jays podcast.
How does it feel? How do you feel that the rest of the Blue Jays media has received you guys? Since you're more the fan
majority of
aspect.
them like us. Like,
well, that's good.
Majority of them like us. They know that they have to be on our. They don't have to be, but they know if they're on our good side, it helps them, right? Like, Keegan Masson, who works for MLB.com, he's a Gate 14 guy. He tells us people always come up to him and say they love when he's on the podcast. So they know that. There's probably a couple of them, like the old heads. Like, we'll get DMs from beat writers for the Blue Jays. I'll be like, I don't want to tweet this or anything like that, but I love you guys. Like, I love what you guys are doing. It's great for the fans. There's probably, like, 1 or 2 that genuinely hate me, which is, like, fine. I don't care. I mean, I've probably been the main cause for them to hate me. But yeah, like, I go out like Mike Wilner, who hates me. But I think majority of them like us. I really do. We're on their side. We're just covering the team a different way than they're doing it. We don't have, like, a boss to answer to. But yeah, it's a little bit different. The newer you are, people are more hesitant, but they know that we have a goal of covering the team as fans, so they get that.
And my last question, Johnny, if you were to have a dream guest to have on, who is it?
For the Blue Jays, it'd probably be. Man, it's hard to knock out Jose Bautista, man. He is he is the epitome of what it is to be a Blue Jay. I mean, they picked him up after he got DFA'd, then just started the leg kick, hit 54 home runs, Silver Slugger, All-Star game. It's him or Josh Donaldson, man. I don't know where I'd go with it, but probably Jose Bautista, because those are like my best memories of my lifetime as a Toronto Blue Jays fan was the Jose Bautista years, the 2 or 3. I mean, he was probably even 4 or 5 years. He was just the best hitter in baseball. So it's got to be Joey Bats, man. I love Joey Bats.
I like that answer. That's a good answer. Johnny, this has been a blast. We appreciate you hopping on. We've been following you for a long time. We love your content. So we've had a blast talking with you. And we're looking forward to seeing how the series goes down this weekend.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, listen, I mean, you guys will probably take 2 or 3. It'll probably be a shit kicking. If you guys do lose to the Toronto Blue Jays in the big 2024 in a series, like it's tough. I'll be honest with you guys. It's not a good look. So you got to get the boys going. You got to get the boys firing. I'm not quite sure who the probables are. I'm assuming it'll be Kevin Gausman going Friday. Saturday would be Yariel Rodriguez, and Sunday Jose Barrios. So credit to me, by the way, for this route. I just knew that right off the fucking rip. I knew the 3 guys going for that series. But yeah, enjoy it, guys. Hey, listen, you guys are doing a great job. Obviously, tons of followers on Instagram. You guys are buzzing. So it's cool to see actual fans of the team starting to get like recognition for covering their team instead of the traditional mainstream media. So it's cool to see what you guys are doing, man. Keep clicking away. It's electric.
And if they lose 2 or 3, we'll be hearing from you on Twitter this weekend. We know that.
Yeah, so. I can't say shit. I mean, my team sucks, so I really can't say shit.
Fair enough. Thanks, Johnny.
Easy, boys.
We had a blast with that combo. I hope it becomes a regular annual occurrence that we have Johnny on to talk Blue Jays on this podcast, because he's so much fun. And like we said before the interview started, there's a reason those guys are really popular, the Gate 14 podcast, because they are very, very authentically themselves, and people latch onto that for good reason. So shout out to Johnny. We love talking to him, and hopefully we do it again. With that, that'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. You want to listen to the full form podcast, make sure to download the episodes, leave us a 5-star review, leave a written review, all that good stuff. If you're listening on the audio side, make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and check us out on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod. One final little shout out. If you're listening to this in the morning, go check us out on Brock and Salk. If you're listening to this after the show's over, go check out those Brock and Salk podcasts we were on. We're looking forward to it. We're going to bring a ton of energy to it. We're going to make it fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.